Attention faithful, this is the final warning for your family. I am speaking to you, the mothers, the grandmothers, you who are lying awake right now in the United States, the Philippines and India, you who are weeping in the quiet nights of Canada, the UK, Australia and Ireland. I feel your tears. I know the heavy sorrow pressing on your chest. Look at your home. Can you feel the coldness? Your marriage feels like a silent desert. Spouses sitting together at the same dining table, yet oceans apart. Your children are drifting away, wandering blindly into a loud world that mocks everything sacred. Do you see it? The invisible darkness creeping under your doors. It is invading our sanctuaries. It is stealing the souls of our loved ones right in front of our eyes. But heaven has not abandoned you. Since 1981, in the remote, quiet village of Medjugorje, the Queen of Peace has been appearing. She comes not with wrath, but with the desperate, burning tears of a mother. Her core message is a heartbreaking plea, echoing directly into your living room tonight. Dear children, return to God while there is still time. While there is still time. Are you listening? The clock of heaven is ticking. This is not just an old story. This is an urgent celestial revelation, a lifeline thrown directly to you amidst this terrifying spiritual chaos. I know you are spiritually exhausted, but you cannot surrender now. Stay with me until the very end. Because tonight, I am going to reveal the 3 specific sacred spiritual keys, the exact weapons the Virgin Mary has given us to lock our doors against this evil. And if you hold on, I will uncover a profound, luminous secret from a saint of our very own time, Carlo Acutis. A secret that holds the absolute power to consecrate and save your broken home. Do not let the enemy tell you it is too late. Write your name and your family's name in the comments right now. I will personally take them and place them into our spiritual prayer circle tonight. Dry your tears. The spiritual battle for your family begins right now. And I need you to know, with every fiber of your aching heart, that heaven does not send us into this slaughter blind. The Virgin Mary is not speaking into a void. She has sounded this exact desperate alarm before, and humanity was forced to fall to its trembling knees. Close your tired eyes for a moment and travel back with me across the ocean of time, not to a myth, not to a comforting fairy tale, but to a documented, terrifying, and undeniable truth. The date is October 13th, 1917. The place is the desolate, rocky valley of Cova da Iria in Portugal. Imagine the bitter, biting cold seeping into your very bones. For hours, a violent, freezing, torrential rain had been battering the earth, turning the valley into a dark, unforgiving swamp. Feel the heavy, soaking, wet wool of the coats clinging to the shivering bodies of the faithful and the skeptics alike. Exactly 70,000 people, 70,000 fragile, doubting, terrified souls stood trapped in a massive sea of thick, brown mud. Among this endless crowd were cynical journalists who came only to mock the Mother of God. There were arrogant government officials and atheists armed with their cold scientific theories, ready to disprove the divine. And there were mothers, just like you, standing in the freezing rain for hours, clutching their wooden rosaries with frozen, trembling fingers, praying for a miracle to save their dying children. The smell of wet earth, of crushed, muddy grass, and of suffocating human anxiety hung incredibly heavy in the damp, freezing air. In the very center of this miserable, swirling storm knelt 3 fragile shepherd children, Lucia, Jacinta, and Francisco. Their small, innocent faces were streaked with a mixture of freezing rain, dirt, and hot, stinging tears. They were weeping, not from the cold, but because the immense weight of the mother's sorrow for a sinful world was too much for their tiny human hearts to bear. They looked up at the impenetrable dark gray clouds, waiting for a promise that the mocking crowd screamed would never come. And then the heavens tore open, the dark heavy clouds split violently apart, and the rain stopped in a single breathless heartbeat. From the torn, bleeding sky emerged the sun, but it was not the sun of our natural world. It was a spinning, trembling disk of opaque silver fire. It did not blind the eyes, it pierced straight through the flesh and into the naked soul. Suddenly, the sun began to dance. It spun furiously, violently on its axis, casting massive, terrifying beams of pure light across the entire valley. The sky turned a deep, bruised blood red, then a piercing, unearthly violet, and finally a blinding heavenly gold. The faces of the 70,000 witnesses, the rich and the poor, the holy and the wicked, were painted in the undeniable colors of the apocalypse. And then, the ultimate terror. The sun detached from the firmament and plummeted directly toward the earth in a zigzag motion. The crowd shrieked in absolute agony. Grown men, journalists who had sneered just moments before, collapsed face first into the filthy mud, weeping uncontrollably, screaming their darkest sins aloud, begging the Almighty God for a mercy they thought they did not need. The heat radiating from that plunging star was so intense, so terrifyingly divine, that in a matter of seconds, the deep, treacherous puddles of mud vanished. The soaking wet clothes of 70,000 people were instantly miraculously dried by the breath of God. Why do I remind you of this magnificent and terrifying day? Why must we remember the hot tears of those children and the trembling of that dancing sun? Because, my dear sisters, the very same Queen of Heaven who commanded the cosmos to wake up a sleeping world in 1917 is the exact same mother who is weeping in the hills of Medjugorje right now. The method of heaven has not changed. The urgency has only multiplied. The way the Almighty used a terrifying, brilliant light to shatter the pride, the arrogance, and the apathy of those 70,000 people in Cova da Iria is the exact same way He is calling out to you today. Only now, the battlefield is no longer a muddy valley in Portugal. The battlefield is your very own kitchen. The battlefield is the bedroom where your teenager sleeps, isolated, anxious, and lost in the digital dark. The battlefield is the silent, cold space between you and your spouse when the lights go out. The dancing sun of Fatima was a loud warning for the nations. The whispered tears of Medjugorje are a silent, desperate warning for your home. She is bringing that same piercing, drying heat to evaporate the cold, muddy darkness that has seeped under your roof. The light is here. The Mother is here. And just like those 70,000 souls, you must decide right now whether you will fall to your knees and grasp her outstretched hand, or remain standing in the freezing rain of this world's deadly illusions. Because you see, the enemy of our souls knows his time is terrifyingly short, and he is no longer wasting his dark energy trying to conquer distant empires or overthrow worldly thrones. His supreme target His ultimate agonizing obsession is your very own dining room table. Why? Because the family is the sacred living mirror of the Holy Trinity on earth. The family is the domestic church, the holy incubator where unconditional love is born, where eternal identity is fiercely forged, and where a fragile soul first learns to breathe the pure air of heaven. The devil knows, with a sickening certainty, that if he can fracture the sacred covenant of love between a husband and a wife, if he can sever that tender, bleeding cord of trust between a weeping mother and her lost child, he single-handedly destroys the very foundation of God's majestic design. That is exactly why the most catastrophic spiritual wars of our generation are not being fought in the streets or in the halls of government. They are being viciously fought in your quiet hallways, in your kitchens, and in the dark bedrooms of your children. He wants to drown your marriage in a suffocating swamp of silent resentment. He wants to strip your children of their divine identity, wrapping them in a cold blanket of confusion and worldly noise. But heaven has heard your midnight weeping. The Mother of God has not left you naked and defenseless on this brutal battlefield. In Medjugorje, she has opened the armory of heaven and handed us the exact infallible battle plan to reclaim our hijacked homes. She has delivered to us 3 divine unbreakable weapons of mass spiritual survival. The first weapon she places in your trembling hands is fasting, specifically commanded on Wednesdays and Fridays. I implore you, my weary sisters, do not misunderstand the gravity of this request. Fasting is not a worldly diet. It is not a mere physical deprivation of bread or water to test your earthly willpower. Fasting is a violent, holy, visceral rebellion against the suffocating noise and the poisoned, paralyzing comforts of this modern world. It is the deliberate, agonizing silencing of your demanding, spoiled flesh so that your starving, suffocated soul can finally scream for God. When you willingly embrace the sharp ache of hunger, you are looking the ancient serpent straight in the eye and declaring with absolute authority, I am not a slave to my bodily desires. I am not a prisoner to the glowing screens, to the sudden outbursts of anger, or to the bitter, destructive gossip that pollutes the sacred atmosphere of my home. Every single hunger pang you endure and offer up in the quiet of your kitchen on a Wednesday or a Friday is a massive spiritual shockwave sent directly into the heart of the demonic realm. Every small, hidden, agonizing renunciation you make is a heavy, crushing stone thrown at the unseen demons who are desperately whispering despair into your husband's ear or rebellion into your teenager's heart. Fasting violently purifies your contaminated blood, disciplines your chaotic, exhausted mind, and forcefully awakens the terrifying, beautiful realization that you depend entirely on the breath of the Almighty just to survive the day. It literally starves the demons that are feeding on your family's weaknesses. The second weapon, the most lethal and breathtakingly powerful instrument against the kingdom of absolute darkness, is the Holy Rosary. Look closely at that simple string of beads you hold in your tired, aging, beautiful hands. The arrogant world mocks it as an empty, mindless repetition, a foolish chant of old, irrelevant women, but the world is utterly, hopelessly blind. Let me pull back the veil and tell you exactly what happens in the unseen, terrifying realm of the spirit when you fall to your bruised knees and begin to whisper the Hail Mary Each and every wooden bead that passes through your trembling, calloused fingers is not just a piece of carved wood, it is a heavy, unbreakable chain link of pure, divine iron. With every single bead you pass, you are violently, decisively snapping a heavenly padlock shut on the spiritual doors and windows of your home, locking out the creeping demonic forces of division, lust, and apathy. Each Hail Mary you breathe out is a blinding white-hot, flaming arrow of pure light shot directly into the suffocating shadows that are trying to swallow your children alive. You are not just repeating ancient words, you are literally breathing with the immaculate lungs of the Virgin Mary. You are walking hand in hand with the Mother of Sorrows through the bloody, triumphant, tear-stained mysteries of her Son's life, death, and glorious resurrection. When a mother weeps in the dark, clutching her rosary and praying fiercely over the photograph of her wandering child, she is actively weaving an impenetrable, blinding shield of divine armor around their soul, an armor that no demon in the deepest pits of hell can ever pierce, burn, or destroy. The third weapon is the sacrament of frequent confession, the ultimate radical act of spiritual liberation. Hear my voice clearly. Confession is not a dark courtroom of humiliation designed to crush your spirit. It is the supreme hospital of mercy. It is the ultimate chamber of profound liberation. We mothers, we grandmothers, are carrying entirely too much heavy, suffocating baggage. The guilt of our past mistakes in parenting, the hidden shame, the unspoken, rotting sins we bury deep in the dark. They are literally crushing our spiritual bones and blocking the light of God from entering our homes. When you humbly kneel in that confessional, lowering your pride, and speak your ugliest failures aloud to the priest, you are allowing the torrential, boiling, cleansing blood of Jesus Christ to violently wash away the filthy, paralyzing weight of your past. It instantly dissolves the suffocating chains of generational curses that have haunted your bloodline for decades. And this brutal honesty with God leads directly to the most profound, transformative, world-altering force in the human experience, the silent miracle of forgiveness within your own home. The lack of forgiveness in a family is a slow, agonizing, invisible poison. It mercilessly corrodes ancient bonds of deep love, turning beautiful golden memories into gray ash and transforming everyday words into sharp, bleeding knives. Spouses can live for years as distant, freezing strangers, sitting on the very same living room couch, breathing the same air, yet separated by massive, impenetrable, invisible brick walls of stubborn pride. But the exact moment a mother, the beating heart and soul of the home, swallows her bitter pride, looks into the eyes of her estranged child or her cold, distant husband, and whispers through her flowing tears the miraculous words, "I forgive you," the heavens violently shake. That simple, tear-soaked whisper is a nuclear explosion of divine grace. It shatters the enemy's choking grip instantly, because the devil, in all his dark intellect, simply cannot comprehend, predict, or defend against the terrifying, awe-inspiring humility of unconditional love. But my dear, beloved sisters, to secure this triumphant victory, you must physically claim the earthly territory of your home for this heavenly grace to reside permanently. You simply cannot fight a fierce spiritual war in a physical space devoted entirely to the distractions of the secular world. Therefore, I am giving you a direct, urgent command from the heart of the mother, a sacred, non-negotiable ritual that you must lovingly perform in your house this very week. You must immediately create a physical, visible sanctuary, an altar of ultimate refuge, right in the beating center of your home. Find a small, dignified table, a mantle, or a quiet, clean corner in your living room. It does not need to be expensive or grand, but it must be profoundly holy. Place a beautiful blessed image or a delicate statue of the Virgin Mary right in the center, so that her tender, maternal, weeping eyes can constantly watch over the daily life of your family. Lay down a crucifix beside her, the ultimate bloody symbol of defeated death and triumphant love, so that anyone, husband or child, who walks past it is instantly, silently reminded of the magnificent price paid for their eternal soul. And finally, you must light a pure, blessed beeswax candle. Let that warm, flickering amber flame be a constant, living, visible testimony of your burning, unyielding faith, a glowing beacon of hope in the darkest of nights. This is not some ancient superstition. It is a profound, powerful declaration of spiritual order to the unseen world. When your home feels like it is violently collapsing under the crushing weight of angry arguments, suffocating anxiety, or terrifying financial ruin, you will not despair. You will walk silently to that sacred corner. You will gently touch the wood of that cross. You will smell the sweet, comforting scent of that melting wax. You will fall to your knees, and your fiercely anxious, trembling soul will finally quiet down. That small, deliberately consecrated space will instantly become the pulsing, fiercely protective heart of your entire family, radiating a quiet, majestic, invincible peace that absolutely no storm of this dark, terrifying world can ever extinguish. And from that small, consecrated corner of your living room, your prayers will rise up to join a massive, desperate global cry. I hear you. I see your profound sorrow. I am calling out to you, the exhausted mothers in the crowded streets of Mexico, whose hearts break as the violent world claims your sons. I am weeping alongside you, the devout grandmothers in the quiet, mountainous valleys of Colombia, who light your candles every single night with trembling hands. I stand with the fiercely loving women in the ancient towns of Spain, watching helplessly as your beautiful families drift further and further from the holy faith of your ancestors. You are not alone. If you dare to doubt the supreme power of these spiritual weapons, listen to the undeniable truth of a woman wounded for years by a worn-out, dying marriage. She watched in total agony as her home crumbled, the deafening silence of her husband, the freezing coldness of their daily routine, the bitter arguments that repeated without rest. In the middle of that desolate desert, she decided to do what the world deemed impossible. She began to pray the Holy Rosary alone in her bedroom, with the beads clutched tightly between trembling hands. Amidst heavy tears and desperate pleas, she did not ask for grandiose miracles. She only begged God for the strength to love. She persevered day after agonizing day. Then, one ordinary afternoon, without any human explanation, her husband sat right beside her and began to pray. Shortly after, he sought out confession and returned to the Holy Eucharist. That marriage was not merely saved, it was fully consecrated. Or look at the father of 3 children who fought a brutal secret war against consuming vices. alcohol, violent anger, and a freezing emotional disconnection. His physical presence at home was a terrifying spiritual absence. His children shrank away from him in fear. His wife wept in total silence. But upon hearing the urgent messages of Medjugorje, a deep, unnameable restlessness stirred within his chest. He decided to fast. At first an obligation, it quickly became a desperate interior need. He fasted every Wednesday and Friday. Through the sharp pangs of hunger, he miraculously regained absolute dominion over himself. The dark temptations weakened. His clouded mind suddenly cleared. For the first time in years, he looked his children directly in the eyes. He took them by the hand to confession, and they rediscovered the beauty of Sunday Mass. A freezing house was completely resurrected into a warm sanctuary of reconciliation. And never forget the typical young man of our modern times, raised in a Catholic home but entirely seduced by the illusions of the world. He was sinking into empty distractions, deep emotional voids, and a wandering interior life. Faith was just a distant memory. But his tireless mother relentlessly invited him to a Medjugorje-inspired retreat. He accepted, almost out of pity for her tears. Yet, upon arriving, he felt a crushing presence he could not name. In the absolute silence of Eucharistic adoration, something hard inside him entirely surrendered. He went to confession for the first time in many long years. He fell to his knees and cried exactly like a helpless child. He walked out not just with a new disposition, but with a transformed vision of his entire existence. He returned to prayer, reconciled with his family, and testifies today that he finally found the profound meaning the world could never provide. These are not isolated fairy tales. They are the living, breathing echoes of heaven. But you must act now. Listen to the terrifying ticking of the divine clock. The Queen of Peace warns us with absolute clarity. This time of grace we are living in is real, but it is painfully fleeting. A luminous window is open over humanity right now, but it will not remain open forever. The radical conversions you are postponing must begin this very second. The spirit of deception advances rapidly, and there is absolutely no more room for a lukewarm faith. To remain lukewarm today is to deliberately step outside the protective mantle of the Almighty. The days of spiritual neutrality are violently over. You must choose your side today before the winds of justice blow away the final precious hours of divine mercy. Hush now. Breathe. Just breathe. Let the heavy trembling in your hands finally cease. Let the racing of your anxious heart slow down in the quiet warmth of this very moment. I know the warnings of the world are loud, and the spiritual storms raging outside your windows are terrifying. But listen to the whisper of the Queen of Peace, a whisper softer than the gentlest breeze, wrapping around your weary shoulders right now. Do not be afraid, my little ones. I am here. Your mother is here. You do not need to fight this colossal battle on your own exhausted strength anymore. When you step beneath the vast, starry expanse of her immaculate mantle, the deafening noise of the enemy simply fades into nothingness. The ultimate victory has already been written by the pierced hands of her Son. The ending is not one of terrifying destruction, but of an overwhelming, eternal, triumphant love. Right now, wherever you are sitting, whether in the quiet darkness of your bedroom or at the edge of your lonely kitchen table, I want you to gently close your tired, weeping eyes. Put down whatever is in your hands. Take your right hand and place it firmly, warmly over your own chest. Can you feel the steady rhythm of your beating heart? That is the rhythm of God's breathtaking grace, keeping you alive for a profound, holy purpose. Keep your eyes closed. Breathe in His infinite mercy and breathe out all your suffocating fear. Now, in the absolute stillness of your soul, pray with me, silently, with every ounce of love you possess. Mother Mary, I completely surrender my broken family into your immaculate hands. Take my wandering children, take my distant spouse, wash the freezing coldness from our walls. Let your radiant light melt the invisible chains in my home. I am so tired, Mother. Please carry us. Cover my household with your holy protection. Feel the deep warmth spreading through your chest. Those hot tears slipping down your cheeks right now are not tears of defeat. They are the beautiful cleansing waters of your family's spiritual resurrection. You are a warrior of light, but no warrior is meant to stand alone in the dark. We are a fierce global tribe, and I want to intercede for you. Before you leave this sacred space, go into the comments below. Type the names of your loved ones and the beautiful country you are weeping from. Write, Mother, protect my home in your country. I will personally gather every single name and lay them gently at the feet of the Virgin Mary tonight. Like this video as a visible seal of your holy covenant. Subscribe to our channel so we can keep the magnificent fire of our faith burning against the dark. And please keep your hearts open. In our very next video, I will reveal a breathtaking, luminous secret from a saint of our modern age, the young Blessed Carlo Acutis. I will share his specific, powerful method, a magnificent key with the absolute power to save your struggling family. Until then, may the unshakable peace of God rest upon your beautiful home.